Hello and welcome to Pro Tour Charleston. I'm Randy Bueller. I'm here with Brian David Marshall, and we are ready for the semifinals. Ravnica team block constructed, and we're going to start out on the match between the Japanese new guard and the Japanese old guard. It's D25 against Kajiharu 80. Kajiharu 80 has three big names familiar to anyone who's been watching the Pro Tour: Kamihiro Kaji, Shuto Yasaoka, and Tamaharu Saito. They're playing against three guys who've been trying to break through that glass ceiling: Chikara Nakajima, Kazuya Mitamura, and the hero of that team, Ryuichi Arita, who has broken through that glass ceiling, got into the Pro Tour, and had some success.
Were you surprised to see Arita has 4 Pro Tour top 8s already?
Yeah, Arita is the star here. He's been picking up team top 8s. He top 8'd at Seattle, and he's got a couple of extended top 8s as well. So he's the star, but he's playing with a couple of the up-and-comers. He went to the message board where the Japanese players trying to make it good have been gathering, have been sharing technology, and he plucked off the top 2 players he could find, Kazuya Mitamura and Chikara Nakajima. Now here they sit playing on Sunday, so successful. Ryuichi Arita and Shota Yasaoka now getting started. Both players go to turn 3 without any plays. 1 mulligan apiece, so each guy started with just 6 cards. Both players are playing Grand Arbiter decks. They've both got a lot of the same blue-white cards in their build. The real difference is that Arita chose to take his deck in a red direction with Niv-Mizzet and Razia's Purification, whereas Yasaoka took his deck black. He's got Angel of Despair, right?
Yeah.
He's got Trial Error as the card that could be awesome here.
I think Trial Error is going to be
multicolored threats.
I think Trial Error is going to be tremendous. Also have Wit's End out of the sideboard, which is a huge card post sideboard. The Wit's End, which is
discard your hand.
Discard your hand. This is also we were talking in the pregame show. This is an update of his blue-black Jushi control deck.
Right, see, Arita is just cycling and electrolyze. You really get a sense that this is control on control. This is blue-white versus blue-white. Both players are interested in building up their mana and setting themselves up for big spells.
Repeal the Signet there?
Yeah, repeal the Signet. Arita trying to cycle through some cantrips, trying to establish mana advantage by repealing a Signet. Makes sense. And then you see Arita looking over at his teammates as well. This format, these guys are allowed to communicate, so you're going to see all 3 guys on both sides of the table trying to help their buddies out, trying to follow 3 matches at the same time and see if they can give some advice here or stop their opponent from making a blunder there.
It was really funny to watch Masashi Oiso play today, over the course of the weekend, but he was almost playing 3 matches, it seemed, at times.
Suzuka replays the Signet. You talk about Masashi Oiso, his teammate, Asami Kataoka, they made money. She is now the first woman to win money in the history of the Pro Tour.
Wow.
Over 10 years. There had been people had done well at the Grand Prix. Michelle Bush had a 2nd place famously in New Orleans, but no woman had ever actually finished in the money at a Pro Tour until today.
It was possible that we would have had 2 women finish in the money.
Yeah, Melissa Del Toro.
Melissa Del Toro was playing for money in that last round with Brian Lynch.
Depending on her tiebreakers.
I mean, they were playing for it.
So, congratulations, Asami.
Compulsive research from Yasaoka. So is this going to be one of those control matchups? The first person to really try to go in for a big play ends up coming out on the losing end of a control fight. How do you engage your opponent in control on control? I mean, when do you know when it's time to make your move?
Well, sometimes your hand is going to force a decision on you. Like if you run out of spells and you're forced to discard, it's better to play something and break the tension than discard, usually. I mean, there are situations where you might rather even discard than blink first. Playing a compulsive research like Shuto Yasaoka is doing right now, perfectly reasonable. He's still going to have 5 mana up to fight a permission war if it comes to that.
And he'd happily trade the compulsive research for a permission card, right?
Right. The scary part isn't that he might get compulsive research countered. The scary part is that his opponent now sees a window to actually get a threat through because he's limited in the number of his own counters that he's going to be able to play. Notice, by the way, that Yasaoka discarded 2 spells to compulsive research. He's got a land in his hand. We can see it on the screen right now. He's not discarding land. Land is tremendous control on control. It's all about mana advantage, so he got rid of 2 mediocre spells instead of 1 land.
He's going to draw plenty more counter spells along the way, and spells he might run out of land. You want to be able to just fight as hard as you can when it finally comes down to that big gunfight, right?
The ideal way to break the control on control sort of stalemate is pick a fight at the end of your opponent's turn. If you have an instant that your opponent cares about, if you can come up with some sort of instant speed threat, play it at the end of the opponent's turn, fight a counter war, then you get to then untap and play this threat that you really care about. That's the best way to break it. I don't know if these guys have very many instants. I don't think that's the way this particular one is going to play out.
Looking at these two decks, there are no game-breaking instant speed spells.
Threats. Wow, on another table, we've got a Helldozer on the board. We'll see if we can check in on some of the other matches.
These guys are just sitting here playing lands right now.
Sounds like there's a Helldozer in play on table A. We'll try to go peeking on that matchup while these guys jockey for position.
That would be Chikara Nakajima, the PTQ standout from Japan.
That's Ryuichi. That is on your screen right now is Tomohiro Kaji, level 5 mage. Really had a spectacular year last year and has continued to have a good year. And he's got Moroi out on his side of the board. However, he is indeed being attacked. Chikaro Nakajima just sent Helldozer into the red zone and played another one. Double Helldozer for Chikaro Nakajima. Wow. I mean, people think of Helldozer as the land destruction icer. Kachi's got plenty of land, but he's still 6'6". Smash!
He's taking 13 a turn there right now, unless he does something.
Will not take long at 13 a turn.
Oh, is
that Skeletal Vampire?
The dreaded Skeletal Vampire.
Kaji, is that enough? He'll get a 3/3 and a couple of tokens, so I guess he can block one with a token, block with a vampire, regenerate the vampire.
But he doesn't have the extra mana to be able to get an extra bat token this turn to work with.
Right. But if he risks one bat in combat,
right, one bat, he can tie up both Helldozers with one bat, one vampire, regenerate the vampire, and next turn get back to a point where he makes 2 bats. So he can actually now occupy those 2 Helldozers all day long.
That one Skeletal Vampire will block 2 Helldozers forever.
Skeletal Vampire is definitely, I think, the big breakout star this weekend.
I completely agree.
In terms of Ravnica block cards.
Turns out to be a tremendously powerful card. Well, looks like Nakajima is now on the land destruction plan. That's one way to fight Skeletal Vampire's ability to make more bats.
And I think it would be challenging in this format for Helldozer to not untap after destroying a land.
Destroys the land, and does he?
It untaps, and he swings with both.
He swings with both, basically just to kill a bat. I mean, he knows all he gets out of this is one bat token down, but
Kaji's
at 8. And Kaji's at 8, so he's
which is also 7 with the Moroi coming up next turn.
I found it really interesting how many people were making plays just to be able to get rid of bat tokens. Like, there was this whole Skeletal Vampire game all weekend where people were like, Savage Twister, yes, I have dealt with Skeletal Vampire. Now it's just the Phantom Monster. Right. Or, I mean, what you wanted to do was, Skeletal Vampire, bat tokens on the stack, Lightning Helix it. Like, that was your window to try to kill a vampire. Otherwise, people made these elaborate plays to just kill a couple of tokens. But that's, you do what you got to do.
As a result of Skeletal Vampire being so good, Putrefy became a phenomenal card this weekend. It was very powerful. It killed Skeletal Vampire without having to even consider the tokens.
Kachi plays a Carven Caryatid, draws a card. So on table B, Arita made the first move, putting out a Grand Arbiter, but it got mortified. Didn't fight over the Mortify. I don't know if that counts as a first move.
I gotta tell you, I was so excited about Grand Arbiter when I was practicing for this format.
Yeah.
But I was so disappointed because all Grand Arbiter really does is his job is to run into the middle of the town square and be killed by a sniper. He never lives. And
sounds like Terry So's Rakdos' Augur Mages.
Very much like Terry
That's one of my favorite stories from day one. And Terry So apparently showed up for play testing for this tournament and said, all right, the first rule is I'm playing 4 copies of my card. I don't care what else we're doing. I'm playing 4 copies of Rakdos Augur Mage. It's my invitational card. I'm running it. And he actually did really well. They put together a Rakdos deck. And he was 7-0 the first day. The team had some struggles and wound up at 4-3, but Terry was playing well. He came to the very depressing realization, however, that the point of his card was to go out there and take a burn spell, clearing a path for Bobby. Bob Maher's invitational card, the Dark Confidant, was the real sauce in the deck.
Well, that's been that's been my experience with the Arbiter. It was
Same kind of thing.
It's very disheartening. And what's interesting is that's good enough, right? That's the idea that it's going to take out a key removal spell, that you're going to have to dedicate a whole removal spell to that card, makes it worthwhile. It was just disappointing for me because I wanted to play with the card and do all these fun things and build these strategies around it. But really all it was sucking up Lightning Helix's last gasps.
What's going on table C, I wonder? It's a Mitamura versus Saito. Mitamura's apparently down to 7. He was getting pinned down. Oh, but he congregated at dawn for 3 Loxodon Hierarchs. The dreaded triple elephant setup. Oh, and Maharu just castigated away Saito's Demon Fire, so Saito is down to just lands. And his Rakdos deck came out, dealt a bunch of damage, but if Mitamura manages to start putting those elephants down...
He can't deal 32, you think?
Probably not. This is actually very similar to the way Saito got his team through to this top 4. In the last round yesterday, Saito was playing the last game of the last match with top 4 on the line. Saito's opponent did exactly this play. He congregated for triple elephant. His opponent was at 7, I believe.
At 7.
Loxodon Hierarch, Saito let it come into play, but then with the life gain on the stack, he played hit to deal the last 4 damage so he could finish him off with then a Seal of Fire and a Lightning Helix.
When you say it, it seems kind of obvious, but that is such an elegant play.
Yeah. I should have slow rolled it.
No, you shouldn't have slow rolled it at all. I mean, it's just so elegant because to allow the elephant to come into play so that you can deal the 4 with hit.
Right. So that but then Lightning
being able to
Helix
finish
Seal
him
Fire
off
to get the last 5.
Yeah, it's
his opponent was at 9. He needed 9.
That's the kind of play you need to be able to make to be. Even the plays with Skeletal Vampire, where you play the Skeletal Vampire and then your opponent puts the Bat token effect on the stack,
Lightning Helix
and then Lightning Helixing it in response. Those are the kind of plays you need to be able to make on the PTQ level to get here, and you need to continue to be able to make them to do well.
I kind of like the way Kaji's playing this game too. He's trying to attack. He's facing down double Helldozer. He's only on 7, and Morroy's about to take him to 6, where 1 Helldozer hit would be lethal. But he knows he can't just sit back all day. He's got Morroy, so he's actually sending over Skeletal Vampire and a Bat token. And he leaves Morroy on defense. He actually doesn't mind losing Morroy in combat here. Morroy and Carving Caryatid playing D. Nakajima didn't even attack into it. He's playing Land Destruction, of course. Kind of a nice little play where Kaji's trying to set himself up to win even through those 2 Helldozers.
Kaji's going to be attritioned right out of this game now. He's going to end up with 2 islands and a Signet before long. Although I guess he can just...
It doesn't need that long.
He actually only needs 3
power.
turns.
He needs 2 more. He's got 8 power worth of flyers on his side of the board.
Kaji's one of my favorite Japanese players. He's just phenomenal.
So these guys are playing best 2 out of 3 matches, and each match is best 2 out of 3 games. So no 3 out of 5, like you've seen other Pro Tours. We typically do 3 out of 5, but in the teams format, it's 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3s.
So this is going to be very different. Once a player on one of these teams loses or wins, it's going to be
hit, and the Signet gets the Signet.
It's going to be a very different look because we're going to see other players crowding into the shot and
that'll be fun.
Kibitzing over the shoulder of their. That's going to be a very unusual look.
And then
for
here
a top
come the 2 Helldozers. Kaji makes the expected block. Carving Caryatid and Moroi both chump block. Kaji needs a good turn here. I mean, he can survive another turn by sitting on Vampire Bat. How much black mana does he have left? Nakajima has wisely been targeting all the black mana, trying to turn off the bat-making ability of the Skeletal Vampire.
Yeah, I don't see Kaji coming out of this.
Yeah, Kaji could have swung for 1 there. I don't know.
Gets in for 1, and then he can block. He can
I don't know
sack
if that was worth it.
No, I don't think he wants to be able to block and get 2 bats.
Helldozer takes out another black mana.
Another non-basic. So really just Stone Rain for 3. No cost to your Helldozer. That's a really amazing synergy to watch. I mean, you're always going to be able to take out a land and still get an attack with a Helldozer in this format.
It's true. That's another way. We're talking about Skeletal Vampire having a breakout weekend. Helldozer has also been tremendous.
So Kaji, he forced Kaji to commit to making 2 bats before combat by doing that because he had to float.
And then here's Civic Wayfinder. Kaji just scoops it up. He's not winning this game. He is losing double Helldozer. So game 1, the first game of the match, to Chikara Nakajima of D25. D25 hangs a W on the board in a game 1. We will now move over to the other tables and try to get a look at what's going on.
It's kind of interesting. We were talking about all the land destruction in Nakajima's deck. Hit and Run is actually a land destruction spell in this format, where it's going to mostly take out a Signet against. In most scenarios, it's really going to take out a Signet. Mm-hmm. There was kind of a criticism some people had of the card in playtesting, but if you've got a land destruction strategy, that seems perfectly acceptable.
Wow, our cameras are on the way over to the match between Kazuya Minamura and Tomoharu Saito, and Minamura seems to have this totally under control. There's just one Legionnaire in play for Saito, the 2/2 flyer. He's facing Skeletal Vampire, token, locks it on Hierarch, locks it on Hierarch.
It's never a good sign when your Skynet Legionnaire is untapped.
Wow, Skeletal Vampire came off the top after he finally slogged through Hierarch. What was under the Hierarch from the Congregation of Dawn? A Skeletal Vampire.
So
Tomoharu Saito looks over, but I just cannot imagine how he comes back from this.
So Minamura, according to Keita, is considered a David Humphreys equivalent.
Really?
In Japan, not necessarily for his magic skill, but he goes to university in Tokyo, which is the equivalent of MIT. He's considered one of the smartest minds on the Pro Tour.
Okay.
They think
Did you hear what he studies?
He's brilliant. He's I believe he's studying. No, I don't know what he's studying. I'm just going to make a guess, and I don't want to get that.
You get that from Keita. Mitamura with 9 life left.
But he's, again, another slightly older player. He's 26.
Mm-hmm.
Older than we've seen in some of these top 8s of late. Oh, there's
Rakdos Guildmage. What does that do to the board position?
Well, it lets him make another blocker.
Yeah, he's got 6 mana to work with.
But that still seems like...
blocking is not the path to victory here for Tomoharu Saito.
Attacking is not the path to victory, unfortunately, either.
Saito with the characteristic slapping himself in the face. Disconcerting the first couple times you see it.
And then
Saito will just be playing, and it'll start to sense his mind wandering, and he'll just slap himself in the face as hard as he can.
Well, it's a team format. He can actually ask his teammates to slap him in the face.
I haven't seen that play.
Is that considered outside assistance? Would you get a warning for that? Touching your opponent's face? Touching your teammate's face. Touching your opponent's face is definitely a warning.
Well, yeah.
I can't imagine that there's... Looking at his deck, I can't imagine that there's anything that's going to get him out of this.
Yeah, I thought Rakdos was a pretty good call for the weekend. I saw a bunch of... There was not a tremendous number of Rakdos decks played, but as the tournament progressed, I started to see more and more of them on the top tables, including Saito's. He's got a little white too to get some Boros flavor added in for good measure, but Dark Confidant, Rakdos Guildmage, Lazolda
was a card that I saw a lot early on in playtesting and just disappeared. It seemed too tricksy to get moving, but and Saito's the only person I've really seen play it all weekend.
I saw a couple others. Well, meanwhile, Minamura sends the Vampire and both Elephants into the red zone. Leaves the Bat tokens back. Sky Knight Legionnaire blocks a Hierarch, and Rakdos Guildmage allows Saito to finish off one of those Elephants. Meanwhile, he takes the Vampire and the other Elephant, drops from 15 down to 8, taking those 7 damage.
As if that...
That lone Rakdos Guildmage has a lot of work to do. And then down comes yet another Elephant. Should just about do it, right? Demon Fire is not enough, right?
Demon Fire is not, no. See,
Demon Fire was a big card.
9, or Demon Fire was, it became the Craig Jones Olivier Ruel match has led to this new syntax to end games. You know, like the way games end. It's like, all right, the only way out here is I'm going to draw Demon Fire, and people would just sort of stand up and everyone start cheering. Even your opponent is like cheering for you to rip the Demon Fire against it. They just want to see the top deck, you know, and it's like Demon Fire. You know, most times people
are just windmilling the top card of the deck.
Windmilling their Orzhov Basilicas into
like
play.
Craig did.
Unlike Craig, it was usually a land.
Right, exactly.
But when you heard that whoop, you know, people were whooping and running around. It was made for an exciting match or two along the way. Seal of Fire. From Saito.
Saito seems like he might have a plan.
He always has a plan. Unfortunately, the plan might just be not die. Is it not die and draw Demon Fire? He can make... He can make 2 tokens, am I correct? That the Boros Garrison I'm seeing?
Yeah.
So he occupy 2 land creatures.
And Mitamura's just at 9.
Right. I thought Mitamura was going up to 13, but I guess they... So Saito has dealt well over 20 damage this game.
He's gone through 3 elephants.
He's dealt 23 so far, is what my guess would be.
Oh, there's Putrefy on the Guild Mage. Got enough to survive this turn? It looks like it is. He chumps both the elephants, he seals, and he can top deck Demon Fire.
We might get a chance to see the windmill slam of Demon Fire here.
Yeah, unless Mitamura has a way to gain life or counter a Demon Fire. He doesn't have any way to counter a Demon Fire.
He is hellbent. Hellbent on Demon Fire.
Yeah, Mitamura slams in. 10 Tamaharu Saito top deck Demon Fire.
Wait.
Mitamura should leave a bat back against a haste creature, right? Well, if it's one card in hand, it doesn't matter. There's no cards in his hand. The only card that matters is Demon Fire. He should just... There's no way for Mitamura to win this turn. I think this whole game just comes down to Demon Fire. Saito has played to give himself as many top decks as possible. It's very similar to the Craig Jones setup.
We see
I dealt some early damage.
We see one Demon Fire and is removed from game pile, which was castigated earlier.
Mitamura sends just the flyers for 5. Oh, he seals the token. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Isn't he 1 short? Oh! Rolling spoil on the Garrison. That should take Demon Fire out of play.
He did not use black mana for that. So
not enhanced. Didn't want his own things to lose. I drew a land. Tamaharu Saito scoops him up. No Demon Firing for
even if he drew the Demon Fire there, I don't believe it was enough.
Yeah, I think the land destruction was...
Yeah.
Mitamura was on top of it. He knew exactly what was at stake there.
Land destruction was a healing salve there.
That's yet another win for D25. So the land destruction decks have each hung a win on the table. Let's see if we can go back to table B and check in on Ryuichi Arita and Shuto Yasuoka.
Looks like we're still on game 1 here.
Yeah,
there are a lot. Rousey's Purification would be a back-breaking spell right about now. Oh, I guess they both have 6 mana.
17 to 16 on the middle table. There's a Wind Reaver from Ryuichi Arita. These guys have actually started to play spells and try to establish board position. Wind Reaver gets a remand pointed at it. Yasuoka doesn't want to see that right now. He'd rather cantrip. Arita seems content to try it again next turn. I find it interesting how many permission spells are actually in this matchup. I didn't see very many permission spells all week. I mean, Remand was floating around as a cantrip, and you saw Void Slimes, but these guys have actually gone farther than that. They've got, Yasuoka's got Convolute in his deck. He's got 3 copies of Swift Silence in his deck.
He's got Overrule.
He's got Trial
Oh, I'm sorry, Overrule's in Arita, sorry.
They both have Overrule.
Yeah,
they
one
both
Overrule.
have Overrule.
Right.
4 Trial Errors to counter multicolor spells. These are actually sort of the classic old-school blue-white control decks that can realistically counter a bunch of spells.
Trial Error is actually pretty interesting in this format against Simic Sky Swallower. Obviously, it can counter Simic Sky Swallower. but you can also
Compulsive research from
you can also
Yasuoka.
bounce a Simic Sky Swallower.
Oh, sure.
That's engaged in combat.
So it can both bounce and counter.
It can
the Simic
bounce
Sky
and
Swallower.
counter if you have two of them.
Yasuoka's got a bunch of goodies in his hand. The trick is to get them into play.
Debtors now.
Is he gonna? Yeah, it looks like he's tapping for Debtors now. Compulsive research and Debtors now, and he's still got 7 untapped lands. You can just count the land. Is Yasuoka up on lands, or is it pretty even?
We got a lot of
13 lands on one side of the table.
but it looks like there's a big stack of double lands.
15 lands on Yasuoka's side of the table.
There's no resolves.
Debtors now resolves.
Does Rita have anything to? I wonder what creatures are in the
Man on the floor,
graveyard
John
here.
Becker, too. Well, there's a Niv Mizzet on top of Arita's graveyard. That seems okay to bring back with Debtors now. Arita plays Compulsive Research. Needs to dig for answers.
It was interesting also how much, your opponents, the cards that were in your graveyard mattered. We saw a match in the last round of Swiss where Nathan Waxer's teammate dredged back Nightmare Void.
Mm-hmm.
He knew his opponent was holding Crime and Punishment, and he wanted to take it out. And when he dredged, he hit a Skeletal Vampire in his own yard on the 2 dredge.
Wind Reaver attempt from Ryuichi Arita.
So there's Cortosaurs in the graveyard.
Wow.
That's going to be just like an impulse every
Absolutely.
turn. It's not going to stick around. So
Yeah,
it's
you just go for Niv Mizzet first. To be clear, Shuto Yasuoka is able to use Debtors now to bring Niv Mizzet out of his opponent's graveyard into play. And yeah, now he's going to start doing Cortosaurs, Grand Arbiters if he wants them.
Grand
But
Arbiter.
Niv Mizzet is the highlight.
You really don't want 2 Grand Arbiters. I mean, you do want them. You just can't have them.
A good point.
And there's a Compulsive Research. That's 3 damage.
I mean, if Arita had the ability to get that Debtors Knell off the board, he would have gone for it.
I don't see.
Clearly doesn't have anything to do about Debtors Knell. And his opponent already has a dragon, already has the ability to draw extra cards, gets a free impulse every turn for a while.
The only thing I can imagine is that he's going to try to repeal it. He has 2 repeals, but he has no real answer other than that.
The only good news for Ryuichi Arita? Both his teammates won their game once. Good thing
That's
about
one of the
team
beautiful things
format,
about this
absolutely.
format. It's what I always loved about it when I was doing well. My teammates.
The most fun feeling in teams is getting carried.
Kenji Samura got carried on day 1. That was really surprising.
He went 1-6.
He went 1-6. He was quite embarrassed about it.
Yeah, I guess his one-spin teammates are glad they didn't have him. Kaji and Saito did better with Yasuoka.
It's a big handful of permission there on Yusuka's side of the table.
Is that Grand
Is that
Arbiter?
a Grand Arbiter? I believe so.
Yeah, Grand Arbiter for Yasuoka. Oh, no repeal. Arita's just untaps.
And as far as I can tell, I mean, there's nothing.
Wind Reaver and a bunch of mana seems interesting. Can't fight that though, right? I mean, you can just block with Niv Mizzet all day. Get it back with Debtors Knell.
I don't know that he could do 16 with it either. So.
メインいないからさ、サイドゴロだから。本当はさっきやんなくても大体わかるし、展開的なもんが。サイドゴロきちんとやってみるんですね。
Rossi's Purification is in his hand.
And another Niv Mizzet.
That seems like a poor.
This is not the board position. You want Razi's Purification. Razi's
That's one of
Purification,
the
Wind
things
Reaver, not the best synergy in the world.
I mean, your opponent might just keep Niv Mizzet, Debtors Knell, and Arbiter.
There's a really good post in the forums by Zero Mance pointing out that there were all these 4 and 5 color decks running around the Pro Tour all weekend, and the 12 that got through to Sunday, nobody has more than 3 colors.
Right, and at least one of them is running land destruction.
Yeah, one team has land destruction in all 3 decks. That people took chances with their mana bases, and it looked good on paper and it was good for a while, but to actually get through 14 rounds of Swiss, you needed the consistency of a 3-color mana base.
I mean, we even see
and
a
it
deck
helped
like,
if you had the ability to punish your opponent's mana base.
Right, and we see a deck like Saito's, which is very close to 2 colors.
True.
I mean, he's really just
and
dipping into white very
The Boros
briefly.
deck that Pelkak is running is 2-color, right? It's just straight Boros.
I believe so. Yeah, this looks like a Patrick Sullivan creation.
Arita and Yasuoka looking over at their teammates.
It's kind of disturbing to see Mistral Charger in play in this format.
Yeah, why don't we just go over to Table A? Kaji and Nakajima have gotten started into Game 2. Kaji didn't like losing to those Helldozers. He's actually lowered his curve a little bit with his sideboarding plan. And he's gotten out of Moroi and a Caryatid. See a bunch of cards in Nakajima's graveyard, but only 4 lands in play. Oh, he's been dredging his Nightmare Void.
Right, I see a Twisted Justice that looks like it got hit.
Yeah, Twisted Justice with Deprived. So Nakajima has been dredging his Nightmare Void, and
he just had his Signet Putrefied, and if he's been dredging, he's not been drawing lands. So he's got a Signet and 2 lands.
Drawing. Now he's drawing. Facing Moroi with only 3 lands in play.
He drew a land there. There's a Rumbling Slum.
Rumbling Slum for Nakajima. 12 to 18. Moroi flies over again. Nakajima down to 8, and there's a second Moroi. That's lethal next turn. Does Nakajima have an answer to 2 Morois? Or are we about to go to Game 3?
He's got, it doesn't look like he does. He does have Savage Twisters that he's sided in, I'm sure.
Can't get this out. You need 6 mana for that play.
No,
and
Savage
apparently
Twisters.
they stayed in the sideboard.
Yeah. He just brought in those Nightmare Voids.
Rumbling Slum. Block, please. Please. Block with double block. You can kill my Rumbling Slum.
I mean, he can't bluff Might of the Nephilim Psychotic Fury here.
They have seen the deck list. And there's Nightmare Void. He just wants to see what's in his deck. And Nakajima scoops him up. Kaji lowered his curve. He decided to be beat down against the land destruction deck. Nakajima's Nightmare Void plan did not work against double Moroi, that's for sure. And those guys are off to Game 3.
Well,
so Kaji evens that at a game apiece, and they're going to play one more game to find out which team gets the first match win here in the semifinals.
Well, that's what we were talking about Moroi. Moroi is definitely the beatdown. I don't know if that came down on turn 3 or not. I didn't see if there were signets in play. People just keep them back in their land pile, so they sort of blend.
Nakajima just laughing about it. That's funny. All right. The other Game 2 that's already going on, Mitamura and Tomoharu Saito
looks like we just
have got started in their Game 2. Saito mulliganed and then got his Giant Solifuge castigated, but he has now played Dark Confidant as the only non-mana permanent in play.
2 cards in play.
Yeah. There's Saito on the right, Mitamura on the left. Saito said Dark Confidant was his MVP for the weekend.
And he also said he never flipped up Hit and Run to take 8. Which is a lot of teams kept those cards apart in testing,
right,
just out of the fear of taking 8 from Hit and Run. So of course, now that we've said that, it'll be like announcing the no-hitter in baseball. Obviously, the next card is
Saito's top card is, what is it? Legionnaire, Sky Knight Legionnaire. So 18 to 17. Saito brought the charge in from his sideboard. Mitamura brought in the 4 last gasps from his sideboard.
And I think when we were bringing the camera over, it looks like he's got a char in his hand. So.
Castigate saw it, so. Sky Knight Legionnaire from Saito, and crunches over for 4. Mitamura takes 4. Now it's 14 to 17. Mitamura draws a card.
Again, Hierarch would seem like it'd be card that Mitamura wants to see as often as possible for the remainder of this game. He just took 2 from his shock land. And he's rolling, spoiling away a land, and Bob.
Wow, that was pretty good. Rolling Spoil, definitely a good card all weekend long. Solifuge, another good card. Crunch.
So he's really at 2
6
here.
damage. With the Char in Saito's hand, Mitamura is in trouble. It's a Char and a Lightning Helix, actually. So there's enough burn to be lethal in Saito's hand, but there's also enough creatures to be lethal. Mitamura has got his work cut out for him. It sure looks like we're going to be going to game 3.
Oh, there's
Locks it
your
on
elephant.
Hierarch. That's a good start. Gets him to 10. What else has he got going on?
Brings him to 8 with the flyer. It looks like he's got another elephant in his hand.
I wonder how many damage Saito actually had to do on average. Like, there's just elephants everywhere. Yeah, there's an elephant and a caryatid. And
The Grave Shell
land,
Scarab
Farsi,
and a Castigate.
Castigate.
He would really like to be able to get that Castigate out there. But I don't know that he'll have time to do that, and he has to play his elephant.
Plays. You just have to pick up. Yeah, plays a mouse land. Charge the elephant to clear a path for Solifuge. That seems like a good play. Still gets to deal 4 to the head, and now there's not a blocker for next turn. So Saito wisely uses his Char on an elephant, smashes over for 6, Mitamura down to 4. We know he's got another elephant, though. That'll take him to 8.
He'll go to
Goes 6 from
He'll
the
go to
flyer,
he's-
goes to
he's
3
at
from
3.
the helix, so he's effectively at 3.
So we need another burn spell, or
Saito left up enough mana to play Lightning Helix at end step if he wants to.
hit and run would be perfectly acceptable draw at this point for him.
Sure. Would you Helix the Dome here? I think the answer is yes, right?
I think the
Saito
answer is yes,
just-
because you could draw Solifuge.
And he could also draw a Demon Fire eventually and want to be
Right.
Hellbent.
Right, if he draws another, but you wouldn't have the mana to cast Helix and Solifuge if
Yep.
you choose Solifuge.
Saito sees there's numerous draws where he would rather have already cast that Lightning Helix, goes ahead and uses the mana while it's available. Draws, I didn't see what it was. Do you send Solifuge into Elephant?
I think at this point I just dash with everything each turn. I'm just going to throw all my burn and all my creatures at him as often as
Oh, it's
possible.
Lizolda the Blood Witch. Yep, Solifuge goes into combat, but thanks to Lizolda, remind me exactly what Lizolda does? He sacrifices a creature to deal 2. Because Solifuge is red, he got
that was
to
an
deal
extra 2
damage.
points of burn.
That
there.
was 2 points of burn. Kazuya Mitamura is all the way down to 1, facing Lizolda and Sky Knight Legionnaire. And he basically needs to kill both creatures. And he has to kill Lizolda before Saito untaps. He cannot do it. Kazuya Mitamura has been killed by Tomoharu Saito. Saito evens it at a game apiece, and they are going to game 3.
That was a really you can really see the power of the deck right there, where he gets through. Did 28. So you really see the power of the Rakdos deck there. I mean, he fought his way through 2 straight Loxodon and Hierarchs with basically just a Sky Knight Legionnaire and a giant Solifuge. So it sounds like Shadow Yasuoka won game
Won the
1
middle
in the
table,
B
yep.
seat.
that Debtors No pulled it through. That made sense.
Yeah, you think so?
Looked like he was ahead when we left the game.
There are actually
Yasaoka has indeed even.
There are actually no cards in Arita's deck that could have conceivably extracted him from that situation. That didn't involve Yasaoka actually having an extreme, cerebral hemorrhage first.
All right, so we will go to Table A. We will watch Game 3 between Nakajima with his Helldozers against Kaji and his Morois. Those guys are shuffling up. All three matches are shuffling right now. So, just to recap what's going on. D25 took Game 1s on 2 tables, but Kajiharu 80 has now taken the last 3 games. So there's one match that's going to Game 3, there's another match that's going to Game 3, and Yasaoka is up a game in the middle for Kajiharu 80.
So I think we're going to try to get a little insight into what these guys sideboarded.
Yeah, Kaji just keeps trying to push his curve down further. Took out the Sky Swallowers completely. Took out the Mimeo Fractures. Reduced the Rolling Spoils. Bunch of 2 casting spells.
Sky Swallower seems like a crazy dream in this matchup.
And he's got the cantrips too with Bounds of Term.
Were you surprised how much Ribbons of Night you saw this weekend?
I didn't really see it until we started looking at these deck lists. So I find it really interesting that I don't think I saw the spell resolve, despite watching a lot of the top tables. But these guys do have them. It seems like this niche card, and the teams that got through to the finals really understood the metagame they were going to be walking into, and they have all these niche cards that worked out good.
For one more mana, it has a very similar effect to Fate's Fetters.
Sure, and if you can only have 4 Fate's Fetters, well, here's Fate's Fetters number 5, 6, 7, and 8. Gives you a way to have a card that plays that role in a deck. It's also similar to the way everybody wanted Civic Wayfinder, and then the blue-white decks figured out, Cordon Star is almost the same thing.
A couple of teams felt that Cordon Star was actually better.
Yeah, once they started playing with it,
Civic Wayfinder, it was a better blocker. In the Glare builds, it actually did little tricky things where you get in for 1, you attack with your Cordon Star with Vigilance, and you tap a guy, and you get in for 1 point of damage. And in the late game, it was just much, much, much better than a Civic Wayfinder, because really you were just digging for action spells at that point.
Right.
So in a late game top deck, and generally you almost always get a land off of it.
Right.
When you play it on turn 3.
All 3 matches are shuffling right now. Kajiharu 80, each member has won a game. T25, they're down a game. They don't have a win in the middle yet.
Kaji would sure like to get out of the semifinals this year.
Sure. Kaji's 3rd top 8 in the last 2 years?
This is his 3rd top 8, yes.
And Arita's 4th.
And it's the 2nd for Saito?
Sounds right.
I guess I could just look here on his sheet. Kaji's looking at his opening
opens
hand.
up a grip.
Shows it to his teammates.
That's awesome. Do I mulligan this? What do you think? Is that a keeper? Looks like
he's putting him back.
He's putting it back. Oh, he takes the peek.
Do you take the peek?
Sometimes. Usually. It's hard to resist. It really is.
Alright,
They're in the middle.
Panning across. Everyone's drawing
Yasaoka
up.
picking up his opening hand.
Saito slaps his face. I like this overhead camera shot we're seeing.
Yeah. We see the audience at home's been seeing a lot of it too. There's Nakajima looking at his grip, waiting for Kaji to finish mulliganing.
Okay. So Kaji is on.
What do you like at this point in this match? You've seen the decks in action. 5 games in the books. Who's advantaged here?
I still like Kaji.
Okay.
I definitely like Yusuke. Yasuoka, watching the match.
Well, yeah, he's up a game, so that one's hard to
I'm saying,
disagree
but
with.
just watching it play out, it just seemed ultimately
It's
like
definitely better set up for the
if,
control and control.
If no one stumbled early, just the late game seemed overwhelmingly in his favor.
Sure.
Especially because he just had so many more counter spells. And I gotta tell you, I like Saito. I like Saito beaten down.
It's like the first match to get started is game 2 on table B.
Got a Court Hussar in play. It looks like, is that Arbiter or Court Hussar?
Oh, the promo Lightning Helix in the graveyard. Very pretty Helix in Ryuichi Arita's graveyard.
How do you get that one?
That is one of the Magic Player rewards cards. So, playing DCI sanctioned tournaments, you get stuff like that mailed to you for free.
Giant Solifuge. Giant Solifuge was just convoluted.
Really? Oh, he covered up the Helix before we got it on camera. It's too bad. It's under that Solifuge.
Darn that convolute.
It seems like it should do more than 3 damage. It's so funny. Dueling Court Hussars.
And does he have a land? It does. So Yasuoka just played a Watery Grave upright, so he took 2 life from that.
Wants to have permission mana. See if Arita's got anything he can slog through with.
It's got another
Court Hussar.
So could you see a situation when you were playing, Randy, that if the Shocklands were in play, that you would pay 2 life for a Shockland and not have the counterspell?
Absolutely, that's an awesome bluff. Like, if you're willing to pay 2 life to put a land into play on tap, your opponent has to believe you have something to do with it.
They have to respect that bluff.
You have to respect that bluff. It's really, I don't think the opponent can afford to call that bluff unless they're desperate. It's a really nice one.
So we were talking about game-breaking instance.
Yeah.
And Yasuoka
the middle table
has
seems
sided
like
in Moonlit Bargain. So there's a card that you could get into a fight over at the end of a turn.
Oh, that's perfect. Oh my. Everybody's looking over.
Helldozer was just putrefied.
Yeah, well, right before we got here, Nakajima played a Helldozer. Kaji has been cycling through cantrips, desperately digging for land, but he's only been able to come up with 2 of them. Top decked the 3rd land he needed. He was able to putrefy the Helldozer. But now here's another Helldozer.
His hand's got to be full of gas, though, at this point.
Yeah, but he doesn't have enough land. Ah, another putrefy.
By
wow.
full of gas, I mean full of putrefies.
That'll... Helldozer, putrefied. Helldozer, putrefied.
Oh, the Moonlight Bargain I was just talking about just got cast.
Odds ends as a response, and it got spell snared.
That's quite a stack. Odds ends is a really
Pit Dragon? Is that what just hit play?
That is a Rakdos Pit Dragon.
Nakajima is just full of these giant monsters. How close is he to Hellbent? 3 cards in his hand. Kaji's looking over. What are they? How does this... Kenny...
That stack keeps getting bigger over on that on the
B-table spell snare got remanded. Remand resolved, so odds end is being rolled right now.
I hear the coin.
Copied.
Wow, both players get a Moonlit Bargain. That's an exciting...
Both players get a Moonlit Bargain.
That is an exciting turn. So, and then assuming that his results first, he could still draw another counterspell and counter the original Moonlit Bargain.
So Hit takes down a Caryatid, and Nakajima is going to be able to get in there with the Pit Dragon. Pumping it up, doesn't have to bother giving it flying. Kaji down to 11 all of a sudden, and there's a Rumbling Slump. So Chikara Nakajima is just playing monster after monster after monster. Kaji dealt with the Helldozers. Last Gasp takes out the Pit Dragon. And another Caryatid. Nakajima with
I
one
believe
card
that's
in
a
his
Farseek.
hand. Oh, I'm sorry. Farseek. So Kaji is going to get hit by Rumbling Slum here. And that's going to take him down to 6. If the last card in Nakajima's hand is a Demon Fire,
Life 1910.
it's lethal, right?
Yeah, he'll be at 4. Manage.
Rumbling Slum Smash is over.
Life 1905.
19 to 5. There's the Demon Fire, and there's the hand. Tomohiro Kaji is defeated. Chikaro Nakajima hangs a W on the board. D25 has win number 1. They just need to win on one of the other 2 tables, and they will be through to the finals.
And for a group of guys who are trying to prove themselves in the Japanese Magic community, getting that win over Kaji is just, that's a huge step in that direction. Kaji has to be pretty frustrated if he falls short here in the semifinals again. He really wants this win. I mean, obviously everyone really wants the win, but I think Kaji has not gotten the recognition that a lot of the other Japanese pros have gotten.
All right, so we're going to go to Table C. We're going to watch Mitamura and Saito. They're in Game 3. So if Mitamura wins it, then the match is over, and it doesn't matter what happens between Yasuoka or Arita.
From Saito.
Saito trying to force it to his buddy in the middle. He knows Yasuoka's up a game, so he just wants to send it to Table B. Saito had a Dark Confidant. It got Last Gasp. Now he's got a Sky Knight Legionnaire.
He slapped that into play pretty hard, too. He's trying to do a little extra damage with it.
What are the life totals?
Like 13, 19.
Castigate.
We see Rakdos Guildmage, set a Demon Fire,
Demon Fire, and
a
a
land,
Lightning
and a
Helix.
Lightning Helix. So what do you take here?
You have to take the Demon Fire, right?
Sounds right to me. So you meet Mitamura
I mean, that's
taking his time.
at least 5 damage right now. Could be more. We just had 8 life paid for the Moonlight Bargain by Arita. Took him a while to make that decision.
Sure.
I guess you have to think for a long time before you're willing to pay 8 life. He considered taking the Smash, but it didn't seem worth the 2 life to him. That was the 1 card he discarded out of the 5. But I gotta tell you, that Rakdos Guildmage,
Yeah?
that also, that's going to start to represent a lot. If he doesn't have any resistance on his side of the table, that Rakdos Guildmage is going to start to add up really quick. But he has to take the Demon Fire. There's no question.
Saito looks over.
He's going to go to 9 next turn.
Wow, Shota Yasuoka, after picking that fight with Moonlit Bargain, took 3 cards. Untapped, just like we said, he picked the fight on his opponent's turn, untapped so he could play a threat. How about Angel of Despair?
Seems pretty good.
Angel of Despair comes down for Shota Yasuoka. He's up a game there. So he could even this up and send it to this game, depending on which one ends first.
Again, if you look at Arita's deck, he does not have a really reasonable answer to
5/5 flyer.
a 5/5 flyer in play.
Angel took out Sacred Foundry. Alright, so he did indeed take the Demon Fire.
I imagine Saito's going to pay 2 life here if he doesn't already have another land. He's holding a Char. He just drew a Char.
13-17 right
Play
now.
the Guildmage and get in.
Yeah,
for
there's
4.
the Guildmage. Makes a guy. And crunches over for 4.
Life 9, 17.
So Rakdos Guildmage can give somebody -2/-2. You can also put a 2/1 with haste into play for the length of a turn.
The ability that seemed, the times I've seen it in play this weekend, the ability that seemed most relevant was almost always
Making
the token
2/1s?
generation.
Surprising.
本当はヴァンパイアのマナでしょ。森持ってる。
And there is Skeletal Vampire. Slap in the face.
Saito slaps himself. All right. My opponent's tapped out. He's at 9. My team needs me to win this. Draw. He's got a lightning helix in his hand.
He's got a char in his hand.
He's got a char, and he didn't just draw Demon Fire, did he? In fact, he just drew Demon Fire. Wow.
So he's asking. He's not asking the viewer at home.
No, he's asking his teammate.
He's asking his teammate.
He's looking over at Shota Yasaoka, and Kaji's probably wandered over by now. What do you think?
I think.
Kaji is sitting in a chair right by Shota. They're both looking over.
So what do you think? Should I kill him?
Well, what's the order? That's the key, right?
Kaji is chewing on a towel in the background. He looks quite anxious. I'd feel pretty good if I was looking at that hand. Doesn't he just pass the turn here? At the end of the turn, Helix you, char you, and then untap into Demon Fire?
Apparently he's going to Helix the Vampire.
Well, that'll tap the Vampire.
Oh, right. He eats a token
very
and
interesting.
taps the Vampire. Nice play.
And then he's
Yeah, it looks
able
like
to-
he's wasting his burn on a creature, but in fact,
But
having
he's
that
actually going to
creature
get in for 4
translate
damage.
directly into damage.
That Lightning Helix equals 4 damage instead of 3 damage. Because he's going to be able to make a token and attack with
3 guys.
3 2/2s.
There's only 1 bat back. It also kills both bats.
And it kills both bats.
Great play. Saito saw it. He had his hand. He was pointing for Lightning Helix, looking over at his buddies. Do I do this? I couldn't tell he was saying, do I do this on the Vampire?
Right, and it gives me more or less chances to draw discard spells to disrupt his strategy.
And Hierarchs. Maybe we should start slapping ourselves in the face. Yeah, Minamura knows, okay, I've got to sack a bat and regenerate this Vampire. I'm not going to win the game without him.
Brings Saito up to 20. I don't think that's very relevant here.
And now, does Saito spend the rest of his mana to make a guy? That takes... He does not get to char if he does that. But making the guy deals 2 damage versus the char dealing 4. Yep, makes a guy, smashes. I assume that bat's got to block. Doesn't even matter. Does he cash the bat in for 2 damage, or does he go down to 3? Neither option seems really good for Kazuya Mitamura.
I don't think he has a choice here.
He can block the 2, wanted to make him feel better that it dies in combat instead of dying at the end of
He can
turn.
actually kill something, even if it's just a transient token.
Minamura can go to 3, or he can go to 5 and have no bats left for his Vampire.
But he will
Neither
have
option seems
He will
great.
have a Phantom Monster, though.
True.
Alright. He has to block here. I mean, how many outs... assuming Saito has nothing.
Sure, in his hand. Going to 3 means he loses to Helixes and Chars and Demon Fires.
And Soul
Being
Effuges
at,
and...
being at 5, he can actually survive a hit, in theory.
And he knows the Char is there. He
Yeah,
saw
it was
the
there
Char.
when he castigated,
He
right?
knows the Char is there. He can't go to 3. Well, I mean, he can...
No, I think Char was the turn after castigating.
Okay.
I don't think he knows about it.
Still, he has to know the Char is there. It's always there. And there you go.
Yep.
He does.
That does block the 2-1. Takes 4 down to 5. Meanwhile,
All right.
Ryuichi Arita has gone into the tank, trying to think of a
What
way to
is
deal with that
Nakajima
5/5
gonna
Angel of
draw?
Despair.
So he goes up to...
T25 came off to a great start here. They won a game on table C, a game on table A. But now all of a sudden,
There's your Hierarch. So we are at...
gets him back to 9. Is it getting back to 9?
ない。
No, he took. He went to. Right.
Yeah, it gets him back to 9. And there's
Putrefy.
Putrefy for the Guild Mage. So a 3/3 and a 4/4 on defense. 9 life to play with. Neither guy. The Vampire can block the Sky Knight Legionnaire.
There's no attack for Saito here.
No attack. We know he's got a Demon Fire and a Char.
Hit would be pretty exciting for him right about now.
That's enough damage. Demon Fire and Char wins the game.
But it has to be over 2 turns,
It's gonna take 2
which
turns.
gives Mitamura a chance to draw.
He drew Hit Run off the top. Oh no! I'm
No,
sorry.
he drew Rise Fall.
He drew Rise Fall. Oh, so sorry. He drew Rise Fall off the top. which
It's hard enough
accomplished
to tell
nothing.
what cards are in play when they're a full card. When
With a
they're
flash
split
of a
cards,
split card.
it gets even more.
Vitsugazi City Tree.
It smells like another Hierarch is coming.
That is exactly what Mitamura needs. We know Char plus end step, untapped Demon Fire will kill Kazuya Mitamura. He needs to gain life right here, right now, or he loses the match.
He has tapped his mana. What looks like a traditional Loxodon and Hierarch configuration.
昨日何回も試着があった。
そんなのができなくてここにはいない。
そうだ。
That would bring him to 13, 4, 6, 7, 8.
No, he's making a guy. He was making a guy with City Tree. That's what I thought. And Saito's like, yes, Char you. Mitamura has to sense the urgency in Saito's excitement. Saito very excitedly deals 4, drops him to 5. There's the Demon Fire.
He's got another Demon Fire in his hand behind it, I believe.
ごめん負けた。
Mitamura's like, you got me. Saito shows off the extra one. There's the handshake, so it all comes down to the last match. Tomohiro Saito wins. He defeats Kazuya Mitamura 2-1, and it all comes down to Table B. We go right back where we started. Ryuichi Arita and Shuto Yasaoka, the middlemen, the captains of these teams. Arita, by far the best known member of his team. He assembled this squad. He took it into battle. He's in his 4th top 8. Shuto Yasaoka, been the up-and-comer, the next big thing the Japanese veterans have been telling us for about a year now. He's up a game. He picked a fight with Moonlit Bargain, was able to get Arita tapped down, was able to get Angel of Despair into play. So there you look at Shuta Yasaoka. He's got to be feeling good about his chances now. His buddy Saito picked up Kaji. The board right now is Court Hussar for Ryuichi Arita, Angel of Despair, Court Hussar for Shota Yasaoka.
And I don't know what Arita can do about that Angel of Despair. I don't know what answers he has.
There's the handshake. There's no answers. Ryuichi Arita thinks, has no answer for a 5/5 flyer, and Shoto Yasaoka wins. Congratulations. Kaji Haru 80 is through to the finals.
So Shota Yasaoka takes Kaji where Kenji could not take him last year.
Wow.
The finals of a Team Pro Tour.
Tomohiro Kaji and Tomohiro Saito lost in the semifinals in Atlanta. Kenji Samura got promoted in scare quotes. Shoto Yasaoka has now taken them through to the finals. They will be playing for the Pro Tour Championship against, well, we don't know yet. Time to bring the other semifinal up.
So
Brian and I are going to take a quick break. We're gonna roll a little bit of footage for you. We will be back in about 5-10 minutes with semifinal number 2. It's going to be Big Timin' with Big Oots versus Rala Pumba. That's Chris McDaniel, Gadiel Slifer, and John Pelkak taking on the Brazilians, Celso Zampiri, Willie Edel, and Paulo Vitor Damodorosa. So stay tuned. We'll be right back momentarily with semifinal number 2.